I slammed my fork down on the china plate, the clink echoing like a gunshot in that stuffy dining room in suburban Chicago, where the air smelled of overcooked ham and hypocrisy. You think I haven't earned my seat? That's rich, Mom. Coming from the woman who let her golden boy pin his felony on me when I was just 16. The laughter died like a choked engine, forks hovering midair, and my brother Jake's smug grin twisted into something feral as Aunt Rita's wineglass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the hardwood floor. You ever wonder what it feels like to wake up in a cell at 16? Your wrists raw from cuffs that bite deeper than the regret you didn't even earn? That's where it started for me. Elena Harper, in the Cook County Juvenile Detention Center, staring at cinderblock walls painted that nauseating shade of institutional green. But let's rewind to that Easter Sunday, because that's when the dam finally broke, 15 years after I'd buried my life for my family. The Harpers were the picture of Midwest normalcy. Dad ran a mid-sized construction firm out of a strip mall office in Naperville. Mom volunteered at the Presbyterian Church bake sales. And Jake, my big brother by 3 years, was the quarterback who got the scouts buzzing before he blew his knee out senior year.
Me?
I was the quiet one, the girl with the straight A's and the vintage records collection, content to fade into the background while they shone. Or so they thought. Easter that year, 2025, with the cherry blossoms just starting to bruise pink against the gray April sky, was supposed to be a reconciliation dinner. Dad had been out of prison for 6 months, paroled early on good behavior, his face gaunt and his laugh a ghost of what it used to be. We'd rented a banquet room at the local Elks Lodge to celebrate new beginnings, as Mom put it, her voice dripping with that forced optimism she reserved for PDA meetings. The table groaned under the spread, honey-glazed ham sliced thin as politicians' promises, green bean casserole bubbling with cream of mushroom soup, and those ridiculous deviled eggs Aunt Rita insisted on dyeing to match her Easter bonnet, pastel pinks and blues that looked like they'd been vomited up by a depressed Easter bunny. 20 of us crammed around that table. Aunts, uncles, cousins who'd flown in from Milwaukee and St. Louis, all decked out in seersucker and floral prints. The men loosening their ties after too much spiked punch. Jake held court at the head, his Armani suit tailored just right over the beer gut he'd earned from too many client lunches at Ruth's Chris. He'd taken over the family business after Dad's indiscretion, as Mom called it, turning Harper Construction into a 7-figure operation with government contracts and a fleet of Suburbans parked out back.
Me?
I'd clawed my way through community college night classes while waitressing at a dive bar in Wicker Park, now a paralegal at a no-name firm downtown, scraping by in a 1-bedroom with a view of the L tracks. The toast started innocent enough. Uncle Bill raised his glass to Dad's fresh start, clinking with a crystal that cost more than my monthly rent. Then Mom, her pearls clutched like a rosary, stood up, her voice carrying that southern lilt she'd faked since marrying Dad to sound more ladylike. To family, she said, her eyes skipping right over me like I was the empty chair at the end of the table. To those who've earned their place through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. The room murmured agreement, heads nodding like bobbleheads on a dashboard. Jake leaned in, whispering something to his wife, Lindsay, a Botox trophy who'd majored in interior design at some podunk school, and they both chuckled. Then Mom turned to me, her smile sharp as a switchblade. And Elena,
Dear,
we're so glad you're here. Even if you haven't quite earned your place yet, like the rest of us. Laughter rippled out, starting with Jake's bark, then Aunt Rita's titter, Uncle Bill slapping his knee like it had been the punchline of the century.
Cousins joined in.
The kind of familial ribbing that's supposed to bond you, but it landed like a sucker punch to the gut. Earn my place? I sat there, fork spearing a chunk of ham that tasted like ash, my pulse thundering in my ears. 15 years. 15 goddamn years I'd carried their secret, let it rot inside me like a bad tooth. All so Jake could play the prodigal son while I played the fall guy. I pushed back my chair, the scrape louder than the snickers, and stood. The room hushed a beat too late, eyes on me like I was the entertainment. That's funny, Mom, I said, my voice steady as the L train at rush hour. Because I've been carrying the weight of your secret for 15 years, the one that sent Dad to prison. The one Jake swore was his screw-up, but you all pinned on me to keep the golden boy clean. Dead silence. Forks clattered. Dad's face drained of color, his parole-fresh hands trembling on his water glass. Jake's eyes narrowed, that calculating glint I'd seen 100 times in boardrooms, the one that said he was already rewriting the narrative. Mom's pearls went white-knuckled. Elena, what on earth? No, I cut her off, the words spilling out like bile I'd held back too long. Let's talk about it. Right here, with the ham going cold and the kids playing in the next room. Let's talk about how Jake cooked the books on that Elmhurst school project, siphoned off 50 grand for his coke habit, and that Beamer he crashed into the tollway barrier. How he begged me, his little sister, to sign the falsified invoices because I was the smart one with the steady hand. I was 16.
Mom.
16. And you sat in the kitchen while the cops hauled me away, telling me it was for the family. Dad took the fall because the judge saw his name on the company letterhead, but we all know it was Jake's mess. The room erupted, not in outrage, but in that awkward shuffle of denial. Aunt Rita gasped, Elena, honey, that's ancient history. Water under the bridge. Uncle Bill muttered about family laundry, his face red as the Jell-O salad. Lindsay clutched Jake's arm, her French tips digging in like claws. But Jake? He just smiled that shark smile, leaning back in his chair. Sis, you always did have a flair for drama. Remember how you forged those docs yourself? Dad caught you. Tried to cover. But the feds didn't buy it. Liar. The word burned on my tongue, but I swallowed it. Not here. Not yet. I'd planned this.
You see.
Months of digging through dusty file boxes in the basement of the old family home. Cross-referencing emails Jake thought he'd deleted. Bribing a former accountant with a six-pack and a plea for old time's sake. I had the proof in my purse, a thumb drive with scanned originals, timestamps that didn't lie. But dropping a now? That'd be too clean. Too merciful. Revenge isn't a mic drop, it's a slow bleed. I sat back down, the laughter's ghost still hanging in the air like smoke.
Touché. Jake.
But family's forever.
Right?
Pass the rolls. The dinner lurched on, conversations veering to weather and grandchildren. But the fracture was there. Spiderwebbing under the surface. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes, his fork pushing peas around like sins he couldn't confess. Mom chattered too brightly about the church Easter egg hunt, her laugh a brittle shard. That night, after the dishes were cleared and the relatives scattered to their Hyundais and Fords, Jake cornered me in the parking lot. The sodium lamps buzzed overhead, casting his face in orange pallor. What the hell was that? Elena? You trying to tank everything I've built? His breath reeked of scotch. Eyes bloodshot from whatever he'd popped in the bathroom. I zipped my jacket against the spring chill, the L rumbling distant like thunder. Built on what?
Exactly?
My back? Dad's freedom? I stepped closer, voice low. I know about the new contracts.
Jake.
The ones with the city. Kickbacks from that slimy councilman in Schaumburg. You think I haven't been watching? He laughed. But it was hollow. The kind that echoes in empty garages. Always the paranoid one. Look.
Kiddo.
Family's family. Mom's right, you haven't earned your spot because you never fight for it. You take the hits and whine later. But hey, if you need cash, swing by the office Monday. We'll talk severance.
Severance.
Like I was the expendable branch on the family tree. I watched his taillights fade into the night. The Beamer he'd bought with blood money, my blood money. That's when it crystallized. This wasn't just about clearing my name. It was about dismantling the lie brick by brick, watching them scramble in the rubble. I'd start small. A whisper to the right ear. An anonymous tip to the feds. But first,
Sleep.
the kind that comes after betrayal's aftertaste has faded to resolve. The next morning, I woke in my apartment to the ping of an email from an old contact, a reporter at the Sun-Times who'd owed me a favor since I tipped her off about a crooked alderman during my bartending days. Elena, got your docs. This is dynamite. Jake Harper's been playing fast and loose since 10. You sure you want this out? Attached was a draft. Harper Construction airs empire built on fraud. Family cover-up expose. My finger hovered over reply. One click. And the fracture became a fault line. But Jake was family. Twisted, as that knot was. And Mom, God. Mom. With her church potlucks and her prayed-away sermons. Could I really nuke them all? The coffee burned my tongue as I typed. Run it. But hold the family angle. For now. By noon, the story hit the wires. Jake's phone blew up. I could hear it from across town when Mom called. Her voice a warble of panic. Elena, what have you done? He's losing clients. Lindsay's threatening divorce. I let the silence stretch. Then, what I should have done years ago.
Mom.
Earn my place. That was the spark. But fires like this? They don't burn clean. They smolder. They spread. And they consume everything in the path, including the one holding the match. The fallout from that Sun-Times piece hit like a Chicago winter, slow building, then burying you alive. By Tuesday, Jake's office was a revolving door of pissed-off subcontractors and lawyers in $1,000 suits, all barking about liens and audits. I watched from my desk downtown, pretending to file motions for a DUI case while scrolling the trade rags on my phone. Harper Construction faces probe over decade-old fraud allegations, blared the Tribune.
Good.
Let it fester. But revenge, I've learned, is a jealous lover. It whispers sweet nothings 1 minute, then claws at your throat the next. That afternoon, Dad showed up at my door unannounced, his old Ford pickup rattling like his nerves. He looked smaller than I remembered. The prison ink on his knuckles faded to ghosts, numbers from a lottery ticket he'd played the day before the bust. Lena Bug, he said, using the nickname from when I'd ride shotgun to job sites, handing him hammers and high fives. Can we talk? I let him in. The apartment a mess of takeout boxes and legal pads, the radiator hissing like it resented the intrusion. He sank onto the sagging couch, hands clasped like he was praying for parole all over again. Your brother's in deep shit. Mom's talking divorce, says she can't live with another scandal. And you. Jesus.
Kid.
Why now? I poured us coffee, black for him. With the cream he skimmed off the top and sat across, legs crossed like we were in mediation. Why not now? Dad, you rotted in Stateville for 8 years because they needed a scapegoat. I signed those papers. Sure. But Jake twisted my arm. Said it'd ruin us all if he went down. Mom nodded along, baking cookies for the investigators like it was a goddamn bake sale.
His eyes.
The same muddy brown as mine. Welled up. I took the plea to keep you out of it longer. Juvenile record's one thing. But adult time? No father lets that happen. He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. Touching him now felt like grasping smoke, familiar, but gone. We talked for hours, the spring sun slanting through blinds striped with dust. He confessed the bits I'd suspected, Jake's gambling debts from college, the loans from the business slush fund, Mom's quiet complicity in shredding ledgers. But there was more, a secret within the secret. Your ma. She had an affair. Lena. Back in '09. With that accountant. The one who tipped the IRS. Jake found out. Used it to leverage the cover-up. Said if we pinned it on you, he'd keep his mouth shut about her. Betrayal squared. Mom. The pearl-clutching saint. Spreading her legs for a numbers cruncher while Dad built their empire? It twisted in my gut like bad bourbon. And you let him? I whispered. Dad shrugged. Defeated. Family.
Kid.
We make choices. I walked him out. The hallway smelling of cabbage from Mrs. Kowalski's Pyrgus. Your choice now.
Dad.
Side with me, or watch it all burn. He nodded, vague as fog, and drove off toward the expressway. That night, Jake called. Not a plea, oh no. My brother's too slick for begging. Meet me at the old site, he said, voice smooth as oiled leather. Midnight. Come alone. The Elmhurst School Project, a sprawling brick behemoth that now housed third graders learning fractions, was a skeleton at midnight. Chain link rattling in the wind off the Des Plaines River. I parked my Civic under a sodium lamp, the beam cutting shadows like accusations. Jake waited by the foundation, cigarette glowing like a fuse. You always were a spiteful little shit, he started, flicking ash into the gravel. That article? It's bullshit. I can bury it, connections at City Hall, a donation here, a favor there. I laughed. The sound brittle. Like you buried me?
Dad told me about Mom.
The affair. You blackmailed her into silence. His face flickered surprise. Then calculation. Dad's senile. But fine. Cards on the table. Yeah, I knew. And yeah, I used it. Because that's what winners do. Elena. You're the loser who signs confessions for brothers she resents. He stepped closer, the cigarette butt crunching under his loafers. Join me. 50-50 on the new deals. We expose Mom's fling instead, divert the heat. Family sticks together. Temptation nod. 50-50 meant stability, a down payment on a house, maybe even law school. But his eyes, those cold Harper blues, lied like a politician at a stump speech. Or what? I asked. Or I leak your side gigs. Remember that identity theft ring at the bar? You funneled a few grand to pay tuition. I got receipts. My blood iced. Yeah. I'd skimmed, desperate times. Empty pockets. A few fake IDs for college kids. Routing cash through burner apps. Nothing violent, but enough to land me in the crosshairs if the feds dug. Jake had flipped the script again. From victim to villain in a heartbeat. Controversial? Hell. It made me question my own moral high ground. Was I avenging? or just dragging everyone down to my level. I drove home with the radio blasting Springsteen, Born to Run. Ironic as a flat tire. Mind racing. Sleep evaded me. Replaced by plans. If Jake had dirt, I'd need more. Wednesday. I hit the library in Oak Park, poring over public records on microfiche. The hum of the machine a lullaby for the damned. Buried in the county clerk's files, Mom's lover, Victor Hale, hadn't just tipped the IRS, he'd been skimming too, and Jake had paid him off to disappear to Florida. A wire transfer trail. Faint, but traceable. By Thursday, I had a new contact. Victor. Sun-leathered and bitter in a Sarasota strip mall, answering my burner phone call with a wheeze. Harper's boy? That prick owes me $20K.
What you got?
Everything, I lied. Meet me halfway, O'Hare Lounge. Saturday. Bring proof. Friday brought the curveball. Mom showed up at my office, uncharacteristically casual in jeans and a cardigan, her hair unteased for once. Elena, please. Jake's cracking pills again. The oxy from his knee days. Lindsay took the kids to her mother's.
We can fix this. Come home.
Bake bread like we used to. Her eyes pleaded, the same ones that had watched me loaded into the squad car. I wanted to, God. The simplicity of flour-dusted counters and yeast rising like hope. But the fracture ran too deep. Fix what? Mom? The lie you lived? Or the daughter you sacrificed? She crumpled, tears carving tracks through her makeup. I was scared. Your father. The business. Jake was always the dreamer. You were strong. I thought you'd bounce back. Strong. The word mocked me as she left, her heels clicking to feet. That night, alone with a bottle of Malort, the bitter wormwood liqueur that tastes like regret, I drafted the email to the reporter. Add the affair. Victor Hale. Full exposure. But I hesitated. Controversial decisions.
Right?
Exposing Mom would shatter Dad. Maybe push Jake over the edge into full relapse. Was I the hero? Or the villain in sensible shoes? Saturday dawned muggy. The kind of heat that sticks to your soul. O'Hare was a zoo, families herding toward gates. The air thick with Cinnabon and jet fuel. Victor waited in the United Club, nursing a rum and coke, his paunch straining a polo shirt faded from salt air. Proof, he grunted, sliding a manila envelope across the formica. Inside, emails. Dated 09. Jake sign-off. Keep quiet.
Vic.
Or the missus finds out about the wife in Tampa. And bank statements, $20K wired from a Harper Shell account. Jackpot. But as I pocketed it, Victor leaned in, breath sour. Your brother's not the only snake.
Girl.
I hear you got sticky fingers too. That bar scam? Words out.
Jake.
He'd flipped again, leaking to Victor for leverage. My hands shook as I bolted, the envelope burning a hole in my purse. Back in the Civic, weaving through tolls toward home, I called Dad. It's worse. Meet me at the house. Now. The old Victorian in Naperville loomed like a tombstone, porch swing creaking empty. Dad arrived first. Then surprise Jake, pulling up in a rental Chevy. Lindsay's Beamer impounded by investigators. Mom hovered in the kitchen, ringing a dish towel like a noose. Family meeting, I announced, slapping the envelope on the coffee table scarred from childhood Nerf wars. No more lies. Jake snatched it, scanning with lawyer eyes. This changes nothing. Vic's a junkie, unreliable. And your little theft? That's felony territory.
Sis.
We go public. You go down. Dad growled. Enough. Son. You started this. Mom whimpered. Boys, Elena, please. The air crackled. Tension thick as humidity. I could end it. Torch the whole rotten structure. But Jake's next words hung us all, or we pivot. I confess the old fraud. Pay restitution. You drop the new dirt. Mom's affair stays buried. We rebuild as Harper's. A pact with the devil. Wrapped in olive branch. Controversial as hell, absolving the monster to save the innocent? But Mom sobs. Dad's weary nod. It tugged. I wavered. The room spinning like a bad trip. Then my phone buzzed, the reporter. Stories live. Full blast affair.
Payoffs.
All of it. I'd hit send in the airport panic. No takebacks. Jake's face darkened. You bitch. He lunged, not violent, but a shove that sent the envelope flying. Papers snowing like indictments. Dad stepped between. Mom wailed. And I stood there. The arsonist watching her own house ignite. The smolder became inferno. Sirens wailed distant. Cops? Feds? Or just my pulse? Revenge tasted like ash. And for the first time, I wondered if the burn would take me too. Sirens?
Nah.
Just the L rattling by in my nightmares. But the inferno was real enough. By Sunday, Palm Sunday, ironic as a priest in a strip club, the Harper name was front-page poison. The Sun-Times splash, construction dynasty crumbles, fraud, blackmail, and a mother's secret affair exposed. Victor's envelope had fueled it. My anonymous tipped the match. Twitter, X, whatever the hell they call it now, lit up with Harper scandal. Blue checkmarks from Chicago Pauls distancing themselves. Randos meme ing Jake as the wolf of Naperville. I holed up in my apartment. Blinds drawn against the paparazzi drones buzzing like angry hornets. Takeout went cold on the counter, Giordano's deep dish. Because why not drown in cheese when your life's a dumpster fire? My phone vibrated nonstop, Mom's voicemails. A litany of how could you? Escalating to come home. We need you. Dad's texts, sparse. Proud of you.
Kid.
Finally. Jake? Silence. Then a single burner call at 2 a.m. This isn't over. Elena. You think you're clean? Wait till they dig. Dig they did. Monday morning. My firm's HR called me in stone-faced suits in a conference room smelling of stale coffee. Elena. Allegations of involvement in identity fraud. We have to suspend you pending investigation. Suspended without pay. The kiss of death for a paralegal scraping by on ramen and resolve. I packed my desk in a banker box, framed photo of me and Dad at Wrigley. A Cubs pennant from better days, and walked out into a drizzle that matched my mood. The streets of the Loop were a blur of umbrellas and suits hustling to deals I no longer fit. I cabbed to the family home. The driver eyeing me in the rearview like yesterday's news. Naperville looked postcard perfect. Manicured lawns greening up. Minivans ferrying kids to soccer. But the Harper Victorian sagged under yellow tape, not crime scene. But no trespassing from the county. Assets frozen pending audit. Mom answered the door. Eyes puffy as rising dough. Her cardigan button crooked. Elena. Thank God. She pulled me into a hug that smelled of Chanel No. 5 and despair. The kitchen a war zone of half-eaten casseroles from church ladies. Dad sat at the table, nursing Folgers. His prison pallor deepened. No, Jake. We lost everything, Mom whispered. sinking into a chair. Bank accounts seized. Lindsay filed, took the kids to her folks in Indiana.
Jake's gone.
Checked into rehab, they say. Or hiding. Who knows? Dad grunted. Feds raided the office yesterday. Found more offshore accounts. Bribes to inspectors. Your brother's been playing 3-card monte with the mob. Lena. Construction's just the front.
Mob?
The word hung like smog.
Jake.
My quarterback brother. In bed with the outfit? It twisted the knife. Not just fraud, but the real Chicago grit. The kind that gets you fitted for cement shoes. And you knew? I asked Dad, voice cracking.
He met my eyes.
Unflinching. Suspected. Told him to stop. He laughed, said it was business. Like our old man taught him, the sins of the father. Indeed. We sat in silence, the clock ticking like a bomb. Mom reached for my hand. Forgive us, Elena. We were weak. You were the strong one, taking that blame. I see it now. Forgiveness? It dangled like a carrot. But revenge doesn't negotiate. Too late.
Mom.
The story's out. Let it burn clean. But clean?
Ha.
Tuesday brought the subpoena, delivered by a process server who looked like he'd moonlight as a bouncer.
Me?
Summoned to a grand jury on the old fraud and the new theft. Jake's doing, no doubt, flipping from cornered to counterpuncher. I lawyered up with a public defender named Ramirez, a wiry guy from Pilsen with a mustache like a broom bristle. Please your best bet, he said over bad diner coffee. Testify against the brother. Maybe misdemeanor on the IDs. Testify. Rat out family. The Midwest Code cracked under the weight, loyalty versus justice. A controversy that had split barstools from here to Milwaukee. I nodded, but inside, storm clouds. That night, Jake found me. Not at home, at the dive bar in Wicker Park, the one where I'd slung shots and skimmed sins. He slid onto a stool, hoodie up, looking like a ghost of the golden boy, stubble shadowing his jaw. Eyes ringed black. "Bayou Malort?" he asked, voice hoarse. The bartender, Tommy, who knew my order, eyed us wary. I nodded, he poured. What? Jake? Come to gloat. He sipped.
Winced.
Came to end it. Rehab was bullshit. Detox cold turkey in a motel off 294. Lindsay's divorcing. Kids hate me. Business?
Gone.
Sold for pennies to cover debts. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket. Same make as mine. Everything. The mob ties, loans from the Albini crew, the payoffs to keep concrete flowing. Wire fraud. Racketeering. Enough to bury me for 20. My heart stuttered. Why give it? Because you're right. I pinned it on you. Begged. Threatened. Whatever worked. Mom's affair? I used it like a club. But you took it. For me. And I repaid you with nothing. His laugh was wreckage. Hero complex.
Ha.
Or just stupid. Controversial as a loaded gun. Was this redemption? Or a trap? The bar hummed. Indie rock on the juke. Hipsters nursing IPAs, but our corner felt like a confessional. What's the catch? I asked. No catch. Testify. Use this. I'll cop to it all, plea out. Spare Dad another stretch. He slid the drive over. Fingers trembling. But Elena. The IDs? I leaked them to force your hand. If you go down too, it's on me. The admission hung. Divisive as a jury hung. Part of me wanted to smash the drive. Hug him. Bake bread with Mom and pretend. But the fracture? It demanded cauterizing. I pocketed it. Get clean.
Jake.
For real. Or next time. I won't hesitate. He left into the rain. Shoulders hunched. I sat till closing. The Malort burning paths to nowhere. Home. I plugged in the drive, files upon files. Ledgers in Cyrillic code. Emails with made guy sign-offs. The inferno roared. Feds would feast. Wednesday. Ramirez whistled at the printouts. This? Gold. Grand jury tomorrow. You're the star witness. But as I prepped, doubt crept. Exposing Jake fully? It'd destroy Mom. Exile Dad to shame. And me, testifying meant admitting my thefts. Airing the family's rot on national news. Was justice worth a pyre? The hearing loomed like a storm front. That afternoon, a twist. Lindsay called. Voice steal. Elena's got the kids for Easter next year?
No.
But tell her. Thanks. Jake's finally talking therapy. Gratitude from the trophy wife. It humanized him. Muddied the villainy. Night fell heavy. I drove to Lake Michigan. Waves slapping Navy pier like accusations. Wind whipped my hair. Salt stinging eyes. Revenge had me here stronger. Scarred. But hollow. The drive burned in my pocket. Drop it all? Or pull punches? Dawn broke gray. I chose fire. The grand jury room was fluorescent hell, wood-paneled walls. A prosecutor with a comb-over like a bad toupee. Jurors in off-the-rack suits. I took the stand, hand on Bible, voice steady. My name is Elena Harper. And my family built an empire on my back. Words poured. The 10 fraud. Jake's coercion. Mom's cover. Dad's plea. Then the new sins, mob loans. The drive's damning proof. Gasps rippled. The prosecutor leaned in. And your involvement. Ms. Harper? The identity theft.
Truth time. Yes.
Desperation. After prison shadowed me. Jobs dried up. I stole to survive. But it ends here. No plea. No minimization. Raw. Ugly honesty. Jurors shifted sympathy, judgment, divisive. Like the country itself. Split on second chances versus hard time. Outside. Flashbulbs popped. Ms. Harper, was it worth it? A reporter yelled. I paused. Rain slicking the steps. Family's worth fighting for. Even when it fights back. The indictments dropped Friday. Jake. Racketeering. 20 counts.
Mom.
Accessory after the fact.
Dad.
Immunity for testimony.
Me?
Deferred prosecution, community service, probation. The controversy raged, op-eds calling me whistleblower saint or vengeful snake. X-threads debated. She saved the system or sold out her blood? Inferno peaked, but embers lingered. Jake's trial loomed, a spectacle for the ages. Embers don't die easy, they glow. They scar. They remind you fire once raged. 6 months post-indictment, Chicago simmered toward fall. Leaves turning traitor gold like the Harpers once did. Jake's trial was the trial of the season, circuit court in the Dirksen building. Packed with reporters from CNN to the Daily Mail. Gawking at the Midwest Mafia mini-saga. I testified again. The drive's files projected like sins on a drive-in screen, Wire transfers to shell companies in the Caymans. Texts to Albini underlings about pouring foundations with a wink. Jake took the stand in a plea for leniency, clean-shaven. Suit hanging loose from rehab weight loss. Voice cracking on the stand. I was addicted to winning, to the rush. Elena. She tried to save me. Even when I didn't deserve it. His eyes met mine across the courtroom. Not feral now, but fractured. Jurors teared up. The judge, a no-nonsense woman from the South Side, adjourned for deliberations with a gavel crack like Judgment Day. Mom sat beside me, diminished, pearls pawned, cardigan threadbare. He's sorry, she whispered, clutching my hand. Dad flanked us, his parole officer a shadow in the back row. Forgiveness flickered, but embers burned wary. Verdict: guilty on most counts. 15 years. Eligible for parole in 7 with good behavior. Jake stood, unbowed. Love you, sis, he mouthed as marshals cuffed him. Lindsay watched from the gallery. Kids absent therapy sessions, she said later. Over awkward coffee. He's theirs now.
But you.
You gave them a father back. The twist hit post-trial. A gut punch in lawyer stationery. Ramirez called. Feds cut a deal with Jake. Reduced sentence if he flips on bigger fish. Albini cruise unraveling. But your thefts?
Cleared.
He confessed to planting the evidence. Framing you deeper. Framed? Again?
Jake.
From the cell block. Pulling strings like a puppet master in stripes. It divided me, gratitude warring with fury. Heroic sibling. Or scheming survivor. The controversy spilled into bars and barbecues. Elena's the victim, versus she lit the match, knowing the wind. I visited him at MCC, the federal pen downtown, through plexiglass that smelled of Lysol and lost causes. Why? I asked. Receiver greasy. Redemption's a bitch, he said, grinning crooked. You showed me the mirror. Figured I'd reflect some light back.
Pause.
And yeah, maybe buy some goodwill for early out. Liar till the end. But blood's blood. Stay clean.
Jake.
Or I'll testify at your parole hearing. Fall deepened. I got my job back, promoted.
Even.
To junior associate. The firm spinning my whistleblower creds for PR. Dad started a handyman gig. Small jobs for church folks who pitted the Harpers. Mom volunteered at a women's shelter. Her affair a ghost she therapied away. We gathered for Thanksgiving, not Easter pomp, but a potluck in my apartment. Turkey from Jewel. Pies from Sara Lee. Stories skirting the scars. But the twist's tale? It stung. Turns out, Dad knew about Jake's frame-up, the planted ID receipts. Thought it'd keep you safe, he admitted overstuffing. Eyes down. Make you the untouchable one. Betrayal's echo. Endless. I laughed. Bitter as malort. Safe? Or just another layer of the lie? The table hushed. Then Mom. We're trying. Elena. Earned or not. You're our place. Earned. The words circled. Controversial still. Who decides grace? I raised my glass, soda. Dry since the fire. To fractures. They let the light in. Christmas came quiet. Snow muffling the city like absolution. I walked Michigan Avenue. Lights twinkling on Magnificent Mile. Salvation Army bells a carol of second chances. The embers glowed warm now. Not scorching. Jake wrote from lockup. Working the program. Read your brief on the Albini takedown proud.
Sis. Proud.
It landed soft. I didn't reply, not yet. Revenge's arc bent toward. Not justice. Exactly. But reckoning. Divisive? Hell yes. Forums buzzed. Elena's a feminist icon, or family destroyer. Karma's coming. Debate fodder. Like a Cubs Sox rivalry. Eternal. New Year's. I stood on my balcony. Fireworks popping over the lake. Resolutions unspoken. I'd borne the crime. Unearthed the secrets. Watched the antagonist flip from foe to fragile kin. No one's wholly right. Jake's schemes. Mom's blindness. Dad's silences. My vengeful spark. Tragic? In the ashes.
Yeah.
Happy? In the regrowth. Maybe. The phone rang, unknown number. Victor Hale. From Florida. Heard your bros singing like a canary. Owe you a beer.
Kid.
Or a check settlement from the suit. I hung up, smiling faint. Embers settle, but they seed new fires. Mine? I'd tend carefully. After all, family's the original controversy, worth the burn. As the clock struck 12, I whispered to the wind, "Earned it now, Mom." And for the first time, it felt true.